no secret that the internet and YouTube these days is oversaturated with reactions, pointless speculation, inane, informed chit-chat, and generally vapid content about, well, mostly Rolex and what they're doing, or rather, what they're not doing. Or even worse, talking about watches never actually experienced by the vlogger. So I wanted to talk about the new 2022 Navitimer, a massively important watch release, and subsequently one that led me to reflect on why I fell out of love with the Omega Speedmaster. More on that in just a moment. But today's new Navitimer has kind of baffled me a little, impressed me, disappointed me, provoked nostalgic feelings, and has got me excited all at the same time. Yes, I know, very confusing. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, hi guys, and welcome to the show. Today, a Navitimer extravaganza. I am so excited about this. I gotta say a massive shout out to Moya Fine Jewelers. You guys know I've been a personal customer of theirs for donkey's years, and they are an official AD for Breitling. So, of course, I pestered them endlessly until I could get my greedy horological mitts on some of these new Navitimers, and very, very graciously they sent some in, so a massive thank you to them. What should I say? Oh yeah, of course, wristwatch check. Totally forgetting already. I'm that excited. The Flighty, naturally. A lot of people dismiss this watch as just a mere homage of the Navitimer, but you know what? Seiko have an impressive history that goes back even further than Breitling at developing pilot watches, and I've discussed that endlessly. Now, before we get into it, I do urge you to check out this video. It goes in a lot more depth to the history, the evolution of the Navitimer. For those of you, well, with shorter attention spans, you know what? I'll do a quick recap just to contextualize it right here. Firstly, and most often forgotten by many watch enthusiasts, is understanding just how crucial Breitling were in the development of the modern chronograph as we know it. As early as 1915, Gaston Breitling created one of the first wristwatch-worn chronographs with an independent pusher at 2 o'clock. By 1934, Gaston's son Willie, the third generation of Breitling owner, patented his own breakthrough chronograph function, a second pusher at 4 o'clock dedicated to exclusively resetting the chronograph to 0. This layout would be adopted by the entire watch world to this very day. So every time you see it in the chronograph, just remember Breitling. During the 1940s, Breitling's expertise in chronograph manufacturing became very prevalent in aviation, and having the distinction in 1939 being the official supplier of onboard chronographs to the British Royal Air Force. During the 1940s, they added a circular slide rule bezel to their chronomat models, so pilots could calculate a wide range of mathematical operations related to aviation, essentially a wrist-top computer. Not that my dyslexic brain can handle or even use any of that, but unquestionably revolutionary for that pre-digital era that we take so much for granted in our current and comparatively futuristic world of today. In 1954, the Navitimer was born, a logical portmanteau of the words navigation and timer, as naturally the slide rule was included. Let's not forget, this was 3 years before the very first Speedmaster in 1957 from Omega. During the 1950s and 60s, a version of the 806 Navitimer was offered to the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association with their AOPA logo on the dial. By 1961 came my favorite moment, well, one of my favorite moments for the Navitimer, and one of the reasons I love the Cosmonaut so much, and well, it gave it its name. We are, of course, talking about Scott Carpenter, the legendary test pilot turned NASA astronaut. He actually approached Breitling. He was a big Navitimer fan. He wanted one basically goes around the outer hand that is, once every 24 hours, specially built for space because of course up in the heavens there is no day or night. And Breitling obliged. The first purpose-built Swiss chronograph for space travel was born. On May 24th, 1962, Scott Carpenter successfully orbited the Earth 3 times with a custom Navitimer on his wrist, beating Omega to the punch. The first Speedy in space was only a few months later, in October 1962, with Walter Schirra and his CK-2998 during the Mercury Sigma 7 mission. The Navitimer's iconic status was then sealed with adoption by many actors, musicians and celebrities, my personal favourite being the pioneer of jazz and musical genius Miles Davis. He wore it with an incredible bravado and juxtapositional contrast. Fitted suits and tool watches had never looked so cool. And let's not forget, it even creeped into a Bond movie with Thunderball in 1965. So I'm going to momentarily interrupt here just to remind you to click like. It's the best way to support the channel, especially if you want to keep seeing more free, unsponsored, independent content like this. Right, let's get back to the video. Okay, here we are. Right, I'll do a quick knife check first. I'm using the Kershaw Leek, which has kind of become my de facto unboxing knife of late. Let's make the first incision. Oh, nice. Good old Moya there. Oh my god, what is this? Oh, look at that. It's got Breitling on the back. Oh, that is excellent. Oh my god, look at that. Windbreaker. That is insanely cool. Look at that. Thank you, Moya. Let's get back to actual watches. Here they are. I'm not sure how you open these. Ah, okay. So they just open like that. Nice. Ah, we got that iconic yellow, that blue and yellow. There we go. Oh, there it is. Oh my god. Look at that. Wow, that's the blue. Love that blue. That is stunning. Oh my god, I got so excited. I didn't even do drum roll. We got a brushed finish on the side. This is very unlike before. It used to be all high polished. Oh, that beautiful applied logo. It seems to be as thin as mine and an automatic. That is very impressive. Oh, I like the underside of the strap. I'm gonna, oh god, sorry, I'm a bit all over the place today because I'm really excited. I'm excited. You guys know I love my Navitimers. There's the B01. This feels like the same size. Yeah, that's the 41 there. Cool. I was expecting the 43s. Not bad for height. Let's compare it to my manual wind vintage there. Yeah, roughly about the same. That's not bad for an automatic. I was expecting a chunkier one. That is a stunning blue. It's like a kind of Robocop blue there. This time let's do the drum roll properly, okay? Oh, so this is the 43, I'm presuming. Yeah, it's the 43 black there. The AR coating, of course, gives it that blue. It's quite a matte black, isn't it? It's not sunburst. I was expecting sunburst. Just feel that bezel. Nice friction to it. A lot wider on the cog edge there, do you see? And no bracelets, so I'm not sure about the bracelets. They've sent me two leather strapped. Yeah, let's zoom in on that logo. I'm loving that logo, much better than the B logo they've been rather overzealous with over the last few years. So that's a nice welcome change, definitely. Yeah, the lugs are a little bit more refined. Do you see that? A little bit more slender. They seem longer, yeah. So here we have late 1990s, 2000s, and here we have 2021. It's a lot lighter, but that's obviously because it's on the leather strap. I really like this blue. It's stunning. Have they actually made the lugs smaller? I hope they have for the 41. Let's just see. No, it's still 22, so it's a shame. I think it would have been better 20, but oh well. So what are my initial thoughts? Well, there's a lot of refinement gone into that dial, but essentially the same dial. I love the V-shaped layout. To me, it's synonymous, this layout. I love that. Personally, I would have preferred white subdials on the Robocop blue and white scales, you know. And talking of scales, they've actually made it, the whole watch, somehow slimmer, mainly due to the scales being less concave, which I think is a smart move. I love the addition of the brushed sides. I think it's a welcome refinement. It contrasts the high polish finish nicely, and it is slightly less bulky, which makes perfect sense. And the whole thing is a lot slimmer than the Valjoux 7750 based predecessors like my old one. So that is a ton of great things. And I love the new, or the return of the AOPA logo, but this time applied on the black dial there. I would have preferred yellow gold. To me, it's a personal preference. I just, you know, yellow gold, it just matches my jewelry, and you guys know I love two-tone. One of my first negatives is they've done away with the counterbalance, and I don't understand why. Actually, I think I do know why. It's another negative as well, because they've got that Navitimer in the middle again, like the 806 I used to own. It would have been cleaner, I think, above the logo at 12. Less clutter there. The anchor, of course, would have concealed it, but there's something so magical about that. Well, now from the last video with Mark, what he said about the B logo, I can't really unsee that, but I still love the B and the anchor. I think it's a beautiful counterbalance. It's one of my favorites. No arrow on the tip, but the entire, well, most of the second hand is now red. Nice pop of color there, so not too much of a loss with that arrow. Let's get into talking about the biggest negative for me, undoubtedly, with this watch, and that is the lack of, or strange kind of color variations, being limited to certain sizes with the 41, 43, and 46. Yeah, let's have a look at that. Unfortunately, my favorite color is the sky blue, much like the A23322 I used to own, and is only available in 46mm. So if, like me, you desire that color combination but in the smaller 41mm size, you are bang out of luck. Or maybe you want the new mint green color that's featured in the 41mm sizes but in a 46mm. Again, that is only limited to one size. So why not make each color available across the board? That is definitely my first disappointment there, and perhaps the biggest reason why I'm not jumping to buy one just yet. Secondly, there's the confusion over the date of this release. So the Navitimer, as we previously discussed, was first released in 1954. So why are they saying it's the 70th anniversary in 2022? Perhaps I missed something. Ironically, the very same bezel it features can make this mathematical computation to back me up here. 1954 plus 70 is 2024. The next big issue is the same as it always has been for almost all Navitimers: the frustratingly low 30 meters water resistance that will forever be its Achilles heel. And just like Scott Carpenter when he landed in the water after his historic space flight, the water damage wrecked his Cosmonaut Navitimer. And this, unfortunately, is due to the very same thing that makes the Navitimer famous, that slide rule bezel, which is also the biggest point of entry for water. Now, when Zinn purchased the rights to make them legitimately under the Zinn name with the 904, which I've had a lot of experience with as well, a little bit too chunky in my opinion, but they're great, great watches and equal in quality. You know, the Germans and Zinn, just fantastic. They got around that low water resistance by introducing a internal rotating bezel manipulated by a second crown. Now, yeah, the second crown will be divisive, but I think it's a logical, worthy upgrade, because then that makes it a more do-it-all, tougher watch. Because 30 meters, you know, that's not very much. 100 meters is certainly better for every day, and I'm not going to worry about wearing it in the rain. You can even wear it jogging and all the rest of it. I would have loved this to be 100 meters water resistance. A massive, massive failed opportunity with this new generation. The only other thing they could have done is made it an external bezel like they did with the Chronospace that I once owned, but of course that makes it more prone to scratches because you don't have the glass to protect it. Kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't. What do you guys think? Would you be willing to make do with a crown? The crown may kind of, the second crown, I mean, it may detract a bit from the cleanness and the, iconic look of the oh my God, Freudian of the Navitimer. Oh my God, yeah. One cannot discuss this one without the other. Yeah, more on that later. Breitling were without a doubt one of the leaders in the big watch trend back in the early 2000s. So why are Breitling going mostly big in scale again, after almost half a decade of returning to more mid-20th century traditional sizes? Part of the reason, in my opinion, lies in how the company is doing as a whole. According to an article in the Limited Times from 2021, Breitling's revenue rose from 400 million to 700 million Swiss francs in just 4 years. Current CEO George Kern attributed this to, and I quote, "We simplified the product range, expanded the retail network, and rejuvenated the masculine image to reach women and the youth as well." End quote. Today, Switzerland sells fewer watches than ever, but makes more money. The post-pandemic rally has propelled luxury stocks to an all-time high. So effectively, with this release, Breitling can do whatever they want. Oh, and another thing I noticed is I'm pretty sure this skeletonized rotor here is a new addition. I would have liked to see a little bit more decoration, blued screws, etc. But generally it is a gorgeous movement. I love that actuation of the column wheel. That is what you're paying for here. Certainly an advantage over cam and clutch speedies, or based speedies I should say. Overall, yeah, it's a stunning movement. I can't believe they've made it that thin and automatic as well, because of course you have to have the rotor. The rotor is very thin. One of the thinnest rotors I've ever seen. And the fact that you can enjoy it with the display back, fantastic. But personal preferences aside, the larger sizes does actually make sense in a design perspective. You see bigger size, better legibility. They have done a great job of maintaining the beautifully detailed and complex dial while subtly refining it with a centralized date window that does not break the lines of symmetry, which was a massive pet peeve of my classic mid-2000s A2 3322 that I once owned and had it at the 4 o'clock. Later they've tried to fix this by making the date wheel the same color as the dial. Despite that, it was always disruptive to the balance of the dial. And another reason why I went with my no-date Cosmo. In terms of value, I think they are priced a little high despite considering the impressive proprietary COSC-certified column wheel-based automatic movement inside. Around the $9,000 mark for the steel models, it's $3,000 more than a Master Chronometer Speedy, brand new. Interestingly, this new movement was designed by a former Rolex engineer who previously worked on movements for the Daytona no less. And in comparison to that racing chronograph, it certainly is much better value. The luxury build quality is undeniable, and we have the inherent historical iconic status and instant recognizability. In conclusion, all the updates are logical and crucially does not lose any of the integral Navitimer feel or visual identity. The new Navitimer is unequivocally pure class, but it has frustrated me. There are some missed opportunities here, I feel. It is rather expensive. I cannot, justify spending that much money. This, at the moment, does it all for me. They're so different. This is very unique. The way it tells time, that complexity of the dial, the legacy behind it, and it being Manuel Lemania. In fact, I went with this one because it was thinner than the automatic, but now these new automatics with the in-house movement are around the same height. I'm really conflicted about this. On the one hand, really frustrating, and the other, they've done an amazing job. Well, they haven't messed it up. That's the most important thing. I mean, I think if we look back to the chronograph-less Navitimers that very much offended a lot of purists. I like them, but it has to be a chronograph if it's going to be a Navitimer, right? What do you guys think? So ultimately, this automatic Navitimer has triggered a lot of nostalgic feelings, and the renowned, and I've said this before, the renowned film director Quentin Tarantino said there are two types of people in this world. There are Elvis people and Beatles people, and I feel the same could be said about luxury iconic watches. There are Speedy people and there are Navi people. Okay, sure, there's tons of others. There's the El Primero and the Daytona, but you get what I'm trying to say here. And consequently, it's also got me thinking, and a lot of you have asked this, so I thought I'd address this now. What killed off my love for the Speedy? So let's take a look. Back in 2017, I visited the Fortis factory in Gretchen as part of a tour of half a dozen watchmakers in Switzerland to further develop my understanding of watch manufacturing. On that occasion, I saw firsthand a version of the 38mm Fortis Cosmonaut that had actually been worn in space. I purchased a similar and extremely rare limited edition soon after that visit, featuring the acclaimed Lemania automatic caliber 5100. By this time, my love of the Navitimer had already taken hold, and I had collected several versions. While Fortis are dramatically smaller in size, they share a rich, long history of making dedicated watches, not just for pilots but space travel as well. But unlike Omega, both of these brands are independently owned to this day. With such heavyweights in my personal collection that excite me more, the Speedies came and went, and often unworn as a result. The final nail in the coffin came with the acquisition of the Dan Henry 1962, a very inexpensive and clever ode to classic racing watches of the 60s. It has elements of the Universal Genève with its hands and dial layout, the Paul Newman era Daytona with the piston head markers on the subdials, and most obviously the Cadillac-style curves of the case inspired by the Omega Speedy. This trio of Navi, Fortis and Dan Henry I then affectionately nicknamed the Speedy Killers. And don't even get me started on the newest edition, my Hanhart 417 ES, aka the Red Lion that I co-designed, which very much is a dream come true, and I will go smiling to my grave wearing it. And then of course there's the Seiko Ripley, coincidentally also called Speedmaster when first released, but Seiko cheekily got away with it by having it two separate words and not one. So as you can see, I'm a very jammy chap. Jammy means lucky in my peculiar slang. Donkeys, jammy, all this stuff. I'm gonna have to do a lexicon, urban gentry lexicon video. But anyway, do I love the Speedmaster? Of course I do. You know, I've had a ton of fun. I've owned so many, but I will always love it. You cannot deny its importance. But I just love other watches more. What do you guys think? Is there any particular watches you fell out of love because you got introduced to something else? For us that are horologically promiscuous, it tends to happen. Anyway guys, what do you think of the new Navitimer? I'm staying put. I'm gonna watch them. I hope when it is the actual 70th anniversary, they correct some of these little details, and yeah, then it's gonna be extremely detrimental to my wallet. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts, queries, comments, opinions, all the rest of it down below, especially your thoughts. What did they get right? What did they get wrong? All of that stuff. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Onwards and upwards. And I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.